Okay, so now we're going to talk about the second type of macromolecule that we find in living system, and that is going to be lipids. Okay, now there are 3 different subtypes of lipids, and so these are the 3 subtypes. One subtype is fats and oils. Those are a type of lipid. Steroids are a type of lipid, and then phospholipids are a type of lipid. Okay, so if you're following along on your notes, there is this chart right here that can help you with understanding lipids. Okay, so let's actually look here. So these are some common examples of fats or oils that we actually eat every day, or usually every day. So butter is going to be made up of fats and oils. Here's going to be some canola oil. Looks like this is probably coconut oil. And so these are the different types of fats and oils. There's a word that you may have heard of, and that is triglycerides, or you may have heard it triacyl glycerides. Okay, those are also fats and oils. If you've heard the word fatty acid is a subunit for triacyl glycerides. Okay, so let's move back to this picture here. Okay, and so here's some fats or oils. And you may remember from an earlier lecture when we were talking about water and oil, there's this video here that shows that they don't mix. So fats and oils are hydrophobic. Okay. Now the benefits of fats and oils is that here, so they are stored energy. So it turns out your body can store fats and oils, and you can use it to make ATP later on. Another very important thing is that they actually serve to cushion our body in really important ways. It turns out your kidneys actually have fat packed around them, and that actually helps keep those kidneys in place. If people lose too much fat and they lose the fat around their kidneys, that can actually cause the kidneys to drop in position, which can put strain on the tubing that takes urine out of your body. Okay. The other thing that fat can do is it can insulate parts of the body. So it helps keep you warm. The more fat you are, the easier it is to keep warm, and the less fat you have, then you're going to get cold more easily. Now there are health problems with fats and oils. I imagine that's not a surprise to you, but let's think about this, and this has to do with this idea that water and oil don't mix. Okay, so what happens? You go down to Burger King or, McDonald's or whatever it is, you eat one of their Big Macs or Quarter Pounders or something like that, and you end up with a whole lot of fat in your system. And let's say you do that a lot. Okay, this is important. Keep in mind, water and oil don't mix. So, this is your blood vessel right here. Turns out your blood is a watery solution. So, when you put too much fat in that blood, it ends up clumping together to get away from the water. Fat and water don't mix. And so that's where you end up with these things called plaques on the side of your blood vessel. And look here, here's a normal one. Look how much room you have for blood to go through. But here, It's narrow. You can't get as much blood through that thing. And so this is what ends up leading to issues with plaques and too much fat in your diet. It's because water and oil do not mix. Okay, and so that goes to our theme, structure relates to function. Okay, hydrophobic structure gets away from water and then causes these sorts of things to happen. Okay. All right, let's talk about steroids for a minute. And here are two steroids. Now, what I generally ask my students in class is, okay, what do these things look like? Here's two steroids. How are they similar? How are they different? And usually what I have happen is students tell me, well, you've got a six-sided figure, six-sided figure, six-sided figure, and then a five-sided. And same here, 6, 6, 6, and 5. Okay. So they usually tell me that's similar. And you'll find that in almost all steroids. Okay. But there are differences. Here we've got two lines and an oxygen. Here we've got one line and an oxygen and a hydrogen. At this point, on this one, we've got nothing sticking off of it. But up here, wow, look at that. We've got a carbon and 3 hydrogens. Okay, and this looks the same, this looks the same, but there's a couple of differences. Now, I should say steroids are hydrophobic. And we have this theme again, structure relates to function. So these two structures are different, so what would you guess about their function? Their function is different. And in fact, you may think that these structural differences are minor, but turns out this is testosterone. It gives you male features, and this one right here is estrogen, and it gives you female features. So small structural differences at the molecular level can have a big, big difference when we're talking about what those molecules do for the organism. Okay. All right, the last one that I want to talk about here is phospholipids. These are incredibly important. This is kind of what they look like. They have this little ball on the top and these two tails down here. Okay. Turns out this ball has phosphorus in it, or phosphate, which is where the phospho comes from. And it is hydrophilic. Down here are these tails, and they are hydrophobic. So this part loves water, and this part hates water. So what happens if we put a whole bunch of these together in the watery mix of our body? Well, this part is going to try and get attached to the water, and this part is going to try and get away from the water. And so what does that end up looking like? Well, this is the outside of a cell. This is the inside of the cell, and look, you may notice here's the ball with the two little tails. Ball with two little tails. And you notice those tails, they all hate water, so they clump together. And this part here, these little red balls on the top, they love water. So outside the cell, this is all a watery solution. Inside the cell, it's all a watery solution. And then this is the important question. Can water get from one side to the other easily? Can they get across this part that hates water easily? And the answer is going to be no. It's hard. So these phospholipids are incredibly important. They form the boundary of the cell. They keep what's outside, outside, and they keep what's inside, inside. And this is important. This is what allows your red blood cells to carry around oxygen. They keep that oxygen inside the cells bound to a molecule called hemoglobin. Okay? So this is probably one of the most important structure relates to function. Because it has a hydrophobic structure, it keeps water out. But yet this part right here allows it to associate with water. Okay. So, and here's another representation of it from your book. Here's a phospholipid, and here are these tails, and the tails clump together. Outside the cell, inside the cell is water, and then these hydrophilic heads get near the water. Okay, so this is a barrier that's hard for water or water-loving things to get across.